I grew up with Emrys, and our pheromone compatibility was as high as 96%. Everyone assumed we would naturally end up together, including me. But on the night of his birthday, he came to me on purpose. Solric, I thought you already understood this. We're just good brothers, nothing more. At most, our pheromones happen to match a little better than average, right? Even though it came out as a question, his tone left no room for doubt. Later, the new transfer student became my deskmate. Because our pheromones reacted too strongly, we went to the hospital for a checkup. The result read, compatibility, 98%. Story begins. After school, I packed up my things and headed to Emrys' classroom to walk home with him. Right at the back door, I ran into one of his classmates. The moment he saw me, he didn't look surprised at all. He flashed me a knowing smile, then turned back toward the classroom. His voice rang out clear, carrying a teasing lilt. Emrys, your wife's here to pick you up. It was the first time I'd ever been called that. I froze for a second, then hurried to explain. We're not, like that. But the whole classroom had already erupted into cheers and whistles, drowning out my explanation completely. When the noise finally died down, Emrys lightly kicked the leg of his desk, making a crisp thud. A smile tugged at the corner of his lips as he raised a brow and explained. We're just good brothers, don't talk nonsense. He grabbed his things and walked out. But as I watched him approach, I noticed the smile at his eyes fading, until it completely disappeared. When he finally reached me, his voice had returned to its usual calm neutrality. Let's go. On the way home, he stayed silent. Seeing the mood so tense, I didn't say anything either. From the outside, we looked like two people walking home together, but it felt more like two strangers who just happened to share the same path. It wasn't always like this. Our families had been neighbors since we were kids, and we were close in age. From kindergarten onward, we went to and from school together every single day, laughing, talking, sharing whatever happened that day. But lately, without any clear starting point, I could feel him growing distant. He still smiled at his classmates, yet when he was with me, his face was always cold and unreadable. I couldn't understand it, and I didn't want to lose our friendship without even knowing why. Biting down on my molars, I tried probing. Emrys, have you been, lately? But the moment I saw the impatience between his brows, my voice died in my throat. He looked at me, eyes puzzled. I shut my mouth. Never mind, it's nothing. I hadn't expected even this would annoy him. When we got home, I put away my things and followed my parents to Emrys' house, head lowered the whole way. It was his birthday today. Our families were celebrating together. At the dinner table, the adults chatted happily, while Emrys and I sat in heavy silence. Suddenly, his mother called my name. Her eyes drifted between us. What's going on with you two? Did you have a fight? I pressed my lips together and forced a smile. No. Then the conversation shifted to us. The two mothers sighed again. These two are really something, born just days apart, and their pheromone compatibility is 96%, right? If they end up together someday. Mom! Emrys frowned and cut her off. His mother rolled her eyes and waved it away. Fine, fine. I'll stop. The atmosphere stayed lively, until we finished eating. Then, under the table, Emrys nudged me with his foot. I followed him downstairs, wandering around the quiet neighborhood. The moon hung high above us. The whole place was silent, only our footsteps echoed in the cool night. After a long while, I finally heard Emrys speak. Solric, I really thought you already understood this. We're just good brothers, nothing more. At most, our pheromones just match a bit, right? It was phrased like a question, yet sounded like a verdict. I lifted my head, meeting his earnest gaze, and suddenly, everything from these past weeks made sense. After a long moment, I slowly nodded. I know. I looked away. Beside me, I heard the soft sound of Emrys quietly exhaling in relief. Closing the door behind me, I lay down on my bed. My mood wasn't great. We're about the same age. When we were little, both our parents worked late, so the two of us spent a lot of time together, playing, waiting for our families to come home. Because our families were close, we were close too, always sticking together. Not long ago, we each went through differentiation. He became an alpha, and I'm an omega. Our pheromone compatibility hit 96%. After that, both families were overjoyed. They'd casually put us together whenever they got the chance. At school, people saw that we got along and always walked to and from campus together. They'd make jokes about it all the time. And somehow, little by little, even I started believing it. Believing that we would naturally end up together. Until what he said tonight. It woke me up, and made me finally understand why he'd been acting strangely for a while. That night, I replayed everything that had happened, going over my thoughts again and again. I didn't fall asleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. The next day at school, I waited at the gate for Emrys. The moment he saw me, a flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. I, on the other hand, acted completely normal. After we walked downstairs, I spoke seriously. Emrys, I thought about what you said last night. I get what you meant. I misunderstood things because of what other people said. But don't worry, I realized that, yeah, that wasn't quite right. So you don't have to feel awkward. Let's just go back to being friends like before. If we just assumed we'd end up together simply because we grew up side by side and had a high match, that really wouldn't be right. Feelings shouldn't be decided by something like that. When Emrys didn't answer, I looked up at him, confused. He snapped out of his daze, turned his gaze away from me, and nodded slowly. Yeah, that's good. His tone was complicated. I was more focused on catching up on sleep before class, so I didn't think too much about it. But when I walked into the classroom, I stopped. Someone was sitting next to my seat, the last row by the wall. There was no way I had the wrong spot. After confirming I hadn't gone to the wrong class, I hesitated and headed to my desk. As soon as I got close, I caught a faint scent of brandy. Faint, but impossible to ignore. And yet, there was a suppression patch on the back of the boy's neck. Even with that patch on, I could still smell him. That had never happened before, not even when I was with Emrys. With my limited knowledge of biology, I could only come to one conclusion. Our compatibility was extremely high. Maybe, even higher than mine with Emrys. When I sat down, that scent grew stronger. Warm, sharp like liquor, filling the entire corner around me. My expression turned complicated as I stared at him, a bit lost. I didn't notice the boy slowly opening his eyes. Suddenly, I met his brown gaze. Still groggy, he moved his lips slightly. His voice was soft. Are you Solric? My pheromone smells like grapes. His eyes gradually cleared. He sniffed lightly, and his gaze locked onto me, brightening. You're grape-scented. Pheromones are always sensitive. People rarely mentioned mine, let alone calling it out directly. Twice. Something stirred in my chest, faint but noticeable. I cleared my throat lightly, trying to sound calm. I'm Solric. And, yeah, grape-scented. The boy straightened up. Even sitting, he was clearly taller than me. Messy black hair fell over his forehead, and when he smiled, bright and clean, it felt like sunlight. Hi, I'm Arven. Later, I found out he was a transfer student. Arven was outgoing. Even though it was our first day knowing each other, he kept suddenly saying things like, "You look really good, you know. You look great even in a school uniform. Your voice is really nice. And your grape scent, it's perfect. Not too strong, not too light. Can you smell mine? What do you think? Do you like it?" His straightforwardness left me completely at a loss. I honestly didn't know how to deal with someone like him. While I was thinking hard, the student in front suddenly turned around, curious. Grape scent? Who has a grape scent? Seeing more and more curious eyes turning toward my corner, I quickly reached out, covered Arven's mouth, and blurted, "Nothing, nothing, just a misunderstanding." When the attention finally shifted away, I exhaled in relief, only then realizing the soft warmth of my palm, and Arven's full-eyed look of grievance. I jerked my hand back on reflex, the tips of my ears quietly turning red. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." Arven's voice was bright and youthful when he replied lightly, "It's fine. I don't mind. You can cover my mouth anytime." I wasn't outgoing by nature. It always took time for me to warm up to people. Except, Arven stuck to me way too much. And strangely, only to me. Lunch in the cafeteria, together. Running during PE, side by side. After school, he'd practically beg me with puppy eyes to go watch him play basketball. When he found out we lived in the same direction and wanted to walk home together, he looked so happy that I had to seriously refuse him before he gave up the idea. But he always knew where the line was. So instead of being annoyed, I ended up getting close to him surprisingly fast. Other classmates noticed we were always together lately, and rumors spread quickly. It reached Emrys too. A friend nudged him, nodding toward the basketball court, toward me and Arven messing around. "You jealous? Didn't you say you were getting tired of seeing Solric too much? Now he's hanging out with someone else. So why the face?" Emrys kept staring in my direction, brows slightly furrowed. "I'm not jealous. Solric and I grew up together. They're just interested in something new, that's all." Yeah, his friend snorted. "Let's see how long you can pretend that." I got tired from playing and had someone sub in for me. After downing a few gulps of water, I noticed someone standing beside me. Emrys. His expression looked a little stiff. "You seem to get along with him pretty well." Ever since we talked things out, I had firmly placed Emrys in the friend category. Hearing his question, I naturally looked toward Arven. Under the sunlight, he was pure youth, vibrant, unrestrained. Without thinking, the corners of my lips lifted, and when I spoke, a helpless tone slipped out. He's nice, just a bit too clingy. I didn't notice Emrys' expression, but I did hear his tone tighten even more. Solric, do you like him? I frowned slightly, confused. You're kidding, right? We're just friends. I'm sorry, Solric. Emrys paused before continuing. It's just, you two got close really fast, so I was curious. Solric, have you ever thought that maybe your relationship is being influenced by something else? I pressed my lips together, irritation rising. Emrys, if you've got something to say, just say it. I don't get what you mean. Emrys took a slow breath. For example, pheromones. You said that even with suppressant patches on, you two could still smell each other. That suggests your compatibility might be really high. So what if the reason you get along, the reason you like being around each other, is because you're being influenced by pheromones? My gaze lowered halfway. I exhaled, a flicker of anger rising. Emrys, we've known each other for years. In your eyes, am I really someone who'd be controlled by pheromones? Solric, that's not what I closed my eyes and cut him off, my throat tightening for a moment. Sometimes I wonder, we've known each other so much longer, but somehow you understand me less than he does. My mood sank like a stone. I couldn't understand why. We grew up together. How could he still not know what kind of person I am? Sure, pheromones could influence a first impression, but after so many days, why would I get close to someone just because of that? Arven and I became friends because after spending time together, after understanding each other, both logic and instinct told me we clicked. A cool sensation brushed my cheek, yanking me back to reality. I blinked, and realized Arven was bending slightly so our eyes were level, concern flickering in his gaze. Solric, what happened? I shook my head. It's nothing. Are you heading home now? Want to walk together? On the way, my mood was still unsettled. My thoughts drifted, and unconsciously I just followed Arven's steps, until he suddenly stopped. I stopped too. Only then did I realize he'd brought me to a park. Arven gave me a steady look, gently took my wrist, and led me to a swing set. I don't know what happened, but people say swings help clear your mood. Go on, sit, I'll push you. I found it a little childish, but with him looking at me like that, I didn't say anything. I sat down. He moved behind me and pushed the swing to a steady height. The breeze brushed past. At the highest point, the whole park, its laughter and colors, filled my view. Kids were roughhousing after school, laughing loudly. And as I watched, the tight knot in my chest slowly loosened. On another downward swing, Arven caught me. I still swayed a little from inertia. When I finally stopped, his warm breath brushed the back of my neck. Even with a suppressant patch, I felt my gland twitch. Grape scent flooded out in a sudden burst. My breath hitched. My face went crimson in an instant. Arven quickly let go and stepped back, his own breathing unsteady. In my peripheral vision, I saw his cheeks were tinted red too. On the way home, we walked side by side down a narrow path, but the air felt strange, warm, charged. A breeze shook loose a few leaves. Arven reached out and plucked one from my hair. He cleared his throat, just a faint, barely noticeable rasp left in his voice. I just saw you were upset, so I wanted to help you loosen up. That's all. Seeing him flustered like that, I almost laughed, but held it in. Arven, thank you. After that day, Emrys and I slipped into a cold war. And the person who walked with me to and from school became Arven. The physical exam was coming soon. Running 1,000 meters had always been hard for me. When Arven heard, he volunteered to practice with me. So every afternoon after school, we ran laps. Arven was already athletic, and an alpha, so his stamina was far better than mine. By the last laps, I was barely dragging myself forward, while Arven jogged beside me easily, matching my pace and counting beats. After some time, I finally improved a bit. To check my progress, he waited at the finish line with the stopwatch. Honestly, without him running beside me, talking non-stop to distract me, the 1,000-meter stretch felt much longer. With only 50 meters left, panting hard, I saw him waiting, leaning forward anxiously, waving at me. Something in my chest softened. I pushed out the last of my strength and ran. When I reached the finish line, my legs gave out and Arven caught me. I looped an arm around his waist, breathing heavily against his shoulder. When I recovered a little, I stepped back. His hands were still loosely resting on my waist, as if he hadn't realized it. He was focused on the stopwatch. Then he brightened, grinning as he shoved it toward me. Solric, 40 seconds under the passing line. I lifted my head, and in my view, was a boy glowing under the golden sunset, blazing with youthful energy, wrapped in warm brandy scent. His words cut off. He blinked, cheeks flushing when he noticed I was staring at him. He scratched his head awkwardly, shy. Do I have something on my face? No. I shook my head. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt, my face burning, even my eyes feeling hot. To hide it, I leaned forward again, resting my face on his shoulder, blocking his view. After that day, something between us felt different. Before, we used to sling an arm around each other without a second thought. Now he hesitated. More than once, I saw his hand hover behind me, then quietly fall back down. I grew anxious watching him, but when he finally gathered the nerve to put his hand on me, I suddenly got all shy. When we reached my neighborhood gate, I saw Emrys standing inside, looking like he was waiting for someone. Arven froze for a second, then his lips puffed slightly before he quickly pulled himself back together. I'll head off then. There was a hint of wounded resignation in his voice. It was unexpectedly adorable. Arven, I'm just friends with Emrys. He instantly brightened, the smile spreading across his face making the corners of my lips lift as well. We hadn't confirmed anything between us yet, hadn't even touched that topic. But I didn't want him misunderstanding or feeling hurt for even a moment. After stepping into the complex, Emrys stood in front of me, his tone careful. Solric, I'm sorry. That day, I didn't mean it like that, and I don't want us to keep fighting. Don't be mad anymore. I let out a light laugh. It's fine. It's already over. I'd already sorted out my feelings, and his words no longer bothered me. Besides, it felt like both our families had sensed something off in the air between us. I didn't want our situation affecting everyone. Going upstairs, I said casually, but Emrys, you're pretty impressive, figuring it out before even I did. He blinked in confusion. I continued, you asked me if I liked him, remember? Back then I genuinely thought I didn't, but now, I think I really do like him. His steps halted, the thud on the stair echoed sharply, and the air around him seemed to freeze. I frowned, puzzled. What's wrong? Emrys met my eyes. After a long moment, he said hoarsely, nothing, let's go. The next day, Arven and I ran as usual. His pace had already settled, so mostly he ran beside me, counting rhythm for me, then habitually dashed ahead at the end to catch me at the finish line. But today, right when I opened my arms, ready to collapse into him, someone suddenly stepped in front of me. I instinctively twisted my body to avoid them, my ankle rolling sharply beneath me. Pain shot up my leg. I fell, caught at the last second by both of them. Only then did I see the one who stepped out was Emrys. His face was full of guilt. Solric, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I couldn't even answer. They rushed me to the hospital. Mild sprain. On the chairs outside, both of them wore equally terrible expressions. I forced an awkward laugh. It's fine, it's fine. I'll just pretend I escaped the exam this time. Arven still had his lips pushed out in a sulky pout. Just then, the pheromone compatibility test results we'd taken earlier arrived. We'd always suspected it'd be high, but we had never tested it officially. Since we were already at the hospital, we figured we might as well. I opened my phone. Arven and Emrys leaned in. 3 pairs of eyes stared at the bright red number. 98%. Arven burst out laughing. I couldn't help laughing too. Only Emrys stared at the 98% with a complicated look in his eyes. Arven dropped me off at my neighborhood gate. Emrys was the one who helped me back up to my room. He didn't let go until he settled me on my bed. Emrys, what exactly do you want to say? His expression had been stormy the whole way up. He pulled out a chair, leveling his gaze with mine, his face serious. Solric, I'm not doubting you. But today, with that 98% result, are you sure your feelings for him weren't affected by it? I barely hesitated. I knew our compatibility would be high long ago. I thought through that possibility already, and the conclusion I reached was, maybe we grew familiar quickly because of that at first, but I'm sure the reason I grew to like him is because I got to know him, the real him. Emrys' eyes darkened. And him, how do you know he isn't being influenced by pheromones? I gave a soft laugh. That's his business. If he can't even sort that out, then I wouldn't choose him. Emrys lowered his head, silent. The front door opened outside. He stood up to leave. Just as he reached the doorway, I took a deep breath and called out, Emrys, I don't know why you've been so tense lately. I'll allow myself to be a little conceited and pretend it's because of me. If you're worried our relationship is fading, don't. What I feel for Arven isn't what I feel for you. There's no competition. I paused, then added softly but firmly, but if you feel like you and he are in competition, Emrys, you know who I would choose. Silence filled the room. His hand tightened around the doorknob until his knuckles went white. He bit his lip hard, fighting that suffocating, crushing ache inside. After a long moment, he let go, opened the door, and left. Soon after, final exams passed. A chapter ended. A new school year approached. Arven and I spent nearly the whole summer studying together. During that time, Arven learned to push boundaries. Shamelessly. Whenever we reached my building entrance, he would catch my hand as I was about to go in, his fingertips brushing my palm in a silent, playful plea. My ears would burn instantly, and every time, he'd smile like he'd won a prize. Today was no different. I was almost getting used to it. Almost. But rationality clung on, and I pulled my hand back fast, practically declaring war as I fled. I ran off, red-faced, his laughter echoing behind me. When I reached my door, I unexpectedly saw Emrys waiting outside. It felt like it had been ages since we last really saw each other. I opened the door to let him in. "Did you need something?" He gave a tight, bitter smile. "Solric, can we not even have a normal conversation anymore?" I stiffened, awkward. "We can." Silence fell across the living room. I lowered my gaze, because the truth was, I didn't know what to talk about anymore. Then he suddenly said, "Solric, I like you." What? I was in disbelief, yet somehow had a faint sense of foreboding. My feelings instantly grew complicated. Emrys had a bitter smile on his lips. "I also thought before that I didn't like you, so I planned to make things clear with you. But later, when someone else appeared by your side, I realized I didn't want to see anyone else next to you at all. You trusted him more than you trusted me." Every time I thought about that, I regretted it. He lifted his eyes and looked straight into mine. "Solric, I know saying all this now might already be too late, but we've known each other for so many years, stayed by each other's side for so many years. I still want a chance. Is that okay?" I lowered my gaze. After thinking for quite a while, I slowly said, "Emrys, I'm sorry. I can't agree. It's not just because I know there's someone I like now. And also, after that night when you came to talk to me, I really thought about it seriously. I realized that maybe I have never liked you in that way. Maybe I was too used to having you around, so I misunderstood. But now I know that being used to someone and liking someone are not the same." A new school year began. My relationship with Emrys cooled a lot after that day, but it didn't affect the atmosphere when our families were together, so I didn't bother with it. After returning to school, I told Arven about the whole thing. His expressions changed like a chameleon, angry one second, nervous the next, then curious, then excited. In the end, when he heard how I rejected Emrys, he was completely satisfied. At the same time, his eyes lit up with blatant anticipation. "Solric, then who's the person you like?" I didn't expect that to be the part he latched onto, and was momentarily speechless. But seeing his face full of hope, all my speechlessness vanished. I pushed his face away and pinched his cheeks several times to vent. The previous day when I got home, I had dragged him to the small alley by the entrance of our neighborhood. My heart was pounding wildly. I gathered my courage and hugged him before he could react. The faint brandy scent wrapped around me, calming me. "Arven, I really want to keep meeting you, to be with you." His hands landed on my waist from behind, warm and burning. Arven lowered his head and hugged me back, his voice gentle and earnest. "Okay, Solric, we'll keep being together." After exams, everyone finally relaxed. A few classmates arranged a trip to Haicheng together. Arven and I went as well. Rooms were shared 2 people per room. When we got our hotel key cards, a classmate winked at us, eyes gleaming wickedly, then handed the card over and theatrically leaned toward my ear to loudly whisper, "Solric, you two take it easy." People laugh the most when they're speechless. But beside me, Arven was red to the tips of his ears. It seemed our classmates didn't believe we weren't officially together. Well, not yet. I wasn't in a hurry. I let Arven circle around me several times, wanting to speak but failing each time. The night beach was quiet and refreshing. The waves washed over my feet again and again, cold and clear. Not far away, a few classmates munched on snacks and chatted about random things. Arven suddenly tugged on me. Only then did I notice the rising tide had reached high enough to almost wet my pant cuffs. The sea breeze brushed past us, carrying Arven's voice. "Solric, will you be with me?" I kicked at the water. "You're asking without any lead-in." His face flushed. "I don't want a lead-in. I can't hold it in anymore." I couldn't help laughing and coughed lightly. "Since you're being so honest, I'll say yes." Arven's eyes lit up, and he suddenly pulled me into a tight hug. Through a few thin layers of fabric, the violent pounding of his heart echoed against my chest. We lay together on the beach. The bright moon hung in the night sky. Arven couldn't help himself again. He suddenly leaned over and pecked me quickly. I was speechless, but hearing his sweet laugh beside my ear, my heart softened instantly. I turned my head to look at the boy smiling so sweetly. Youthful, free, bright, stars glittering above a vast night sky. I only felt that his eyes were just as bright as the stars. When we returned to the hotel room, Arven pressed me against the door immediately, and the next second, a trail of fine kisses landed across my skin. With our emotions rising, the limited space filled with brandy and grape scent, mingling, intertwining, finally becoming a sweet and overwhelming grape brandy aroma. I lay on the bed with hazy eyes, listening to the water running in the bathroom, my gaze slowly clearing. A wave of fear crept up on me. We needed self-control. Just a little kissing and it became like that. Thankfully there were suppressants, and neither of us was in a heat or susceptibility phase. It's not like I couldn't accept things progressing fast, but I really never imagined something like this happening on the first night we got together. When Arven came out of the bathroom, his upper body was bare, water dripping from his wet hair, just like scenes I'd always seen written in novels. His body was well trained. The novels hadn't lied. It was very tempting. In our mutual shyness and awkwardness, we lay stiffly for a long time. Then we ended up kissing for a long time too. He braced himself above me, breathing messily. I didn't know how long it lasted. By the end, even my lips were faintly sore. The next day, when I woke up feeling the lingering pain in my lips, I was furious. Arven used his puppy eyes ultimate move, whining and acting cute until I finally calmed down. But during those days in Haicheng, my lips were basically never not swollen. I suddenly regretted it a little. Had I known, I wouldn't have agreed to be with him so soon. Extra story. Not long after school started, Arven entered his susceptibility period. Whenever he had free time, he had to hold me. We were in different programs, different dorms. He would drag me to the small forest near the dorms, packed with couples at night. I never imagined I would one day become one of them. Hugging wasn't enough. He constantly asked for my clothes, acted spoiled like crazy, and would tear up at the slightest thing. I couldn't resist when he looked like that. Even when he bit my neck and left red marks everywhere, I forgave him. Sometimes when it hurt, I got angry. We're not even marked. You weren't like this in susceptibility during high school. Men are unreasonable in moments like that. He would only bury himself against me, inhaling my scent like crazy, then whisper softly, I want you, I want you. Well, what else could I do? After a few days of this, I couldn't take it anymore. After asking my parents' opinion, I cupped his face. Do you want to rent a place with me off campus? Arven's eyes lit up instantly, and he nodded without hesitation, yes. One day, he finished class earlier, so he decided to go home first, buy groceries, and cook. When I got home, the living room was quiet. The food in the kitchen was kept warm. Puzzled, I walked to the bedroom. Arven hadn't even bothered to close the door properly, completely absorbed in what he was watching. Until I approached, and saw clearly what the little videos were, my face instantly flushed. He finally noticed I was there, and his face exploded red too. He stammered, I wasn't. I let out a ha and laughed. There's evidence right in front of me and you still want to deny it? Watching those little videos behind my back. His newest way of hiding embarrassment was to charge at me, hug me tightly, and bury his face in my neck. Afraid I'd misunderstand, Arven repeatedly peeked up at me, then hid his face again, then peeked up again. Baby, I was studying. I'm scared that when it's your heat someday, if I don't know what I'm doing and mess up, something bad might happen. I calmed down. Ha, I have suppressants. I don't necessarily need you, you know. Arven froze, then immediately started acting spoiled again. I don't care, I want to. One night, Arven had a club gathering, and they carried him home drunk, so drunk he could barely walk straight. I poured him a glass of water. As soon as I set it down, he wrapped an arm around my waist, pulled me onto his lap, and held me tightly in his arms. His drunk voice was soft and clingy. Baby, you don't know how hard it was for me to hide the fact I liked you. You also don't know I liked you from the first moment I saw you, hee. And that childhood friend of yours, I don't even want to talk about him, always hovering around you, making me afraid to relax even a little. Me, well, actually, I kind of knew, but hearing him say it still made my heart melt uncontrollably. He pressed his face into my neck and inhaled deeply, satisfied when he smelled the strong grape scent, giggling foolishly. Baby, you smell so good. After a moment, his tone grew anxious. Baby, you don't think I'm greasy, right? I won't talk anymore. I laughed. I turned around in his arms, shifting until I found a comfortable position to nestle in. Not greasy, very sweet. I heard him chuckle softly. His voice became gentle. And baby, I never told you. Before realizing our pheromones matched, when I saw you for the first time, I already liked you. To get your attention, that's why I deliberately mentioned that you were Solric.